Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I have been in this industry for 60 years. Theatre has been my entire life, and its life's blood has been the incredible people who have honoured me by befriending me, and who to this day I can still call my friends. You know, when you're working in close proximity with actors and directors and you're sharing dressing rooms, you either make good friends or you say goodbye at the end of a production. In my case, directors and actors and impresarios tend to have stayed in my life, some of whom have become good friends and some of whom have deeply influenced my life. Joan Brickhill springs to mind. She met me when I was 13. She was my teacher in Durban. And she stayed my close and loving friend and mentor until the day she died. Another one is Manny Manham. I was very young when I first came to Johannesburg, and I met him in 1961 when I did my first professional production in Johannesburg. Still a dear friend. And of course my darling Janice Honeyman, who has directed me in some of my most favourite productions. Torch Song Trilogy, I loved it. Driving Miss Daisy opposite the great John Kani. Then, of course, Twilight of the Golds and Rose, my one-woman tour de force where I was on stage for a full 2 hours on my own. Janice today is still my darling, treasured friend. And then suddenly I was being directed by two very young directors. There was Charmaine Weir-Smith, who was directing me in Tale of Allergist's Wife and Glorious, and the much lauded and applauded and brilliant Sylvain Strike. We did a workshop and a play called The Table, and there I was as Pro, me, being directed by these two talented young women. It was really quite wonderful. I loved it, and I loved them. And then, of course, there's Marilyn Van Rennen, who has directed me several times and has become a very close and loving friend. And when I was in The Table for Sylvain, I shared a dressing room with a most exquisite, wonderful, talented girl, and her name was Kabonina Ubeka. We loved each other at first sight, and we are friends forever. And then there is the fabulous impresario, Daphne Kun, who runs the theatre on the Square, where I've worked many, many, many times. And she, funnily enough, put Sam and I together in our first musical collaboration. And she called it When Annie Met Sam. And Daphne has become a very valued and close friend. When I was working at her theatre at another time, we did another show called Play It Again. And in that show was the fabulous James Inlawball, who was the artistic director of the market, only he was singing and dancing in that show, and he has also become a very dear friend. I can reel off many, many names. Anthony Fridjon is another one. He played my husband 3 times, first in a movie and twice on stage. As a matter of fact, thinking about it, my marriages to Anthony were some of my more successful ones. And then, of course, there was Eddie Eckstein from the Bats. Eddie played my husband in Oh George, and he and his wife Mari have become very close family friends. And my wonderful friend John Burks, a radio icon. And I was in a big musical production quite recently with Michael de Pinner and Keith Smith. All people I love to pieces. All friends to this day. In the last 60 years, 30 years of it, I spent doing stand-up and singing in every venue that you can think of in the whole of South Africa. I spent hours and hours standing in the kitchens of 5-star hotels in half-naked dresses, waiting to go on after the mains and before the desserts. And you know, when you're in this industry, it's very important, very, very important to have good representation. And I'm so lucky to have the best agents in this business, contractors. So two of my biggest productions, really, are my family. My wonderful daughter, Kathy Jo. She is a writer, director, and facilitator. My son, Gary, who's a producer, a television producer in the UK. And Kathy has given me my two brilliant grandchildren, my little lawyer, my granddaughter Zoe, and David, who's doing a BMUS at Wits. And of course, my most important husband, Sam Sklair, my musician, composer husband of 26 years. It's the longest I've lasted with anyone. So those are my big productions, which are very, very important to me. So tonight, I'm very humbly accepting this Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you, Naledi, and your team, and Des and Dawn. And it is really important to be recognized by one's peers. Thank you so much. And in this very difficult time for all of us, particularly in our industry, I'm saying, please God, may our profession and our industry go on and on and on and flourish once again. And I'll say it in Zulu. Cele mkhulu wami, ubasize bonke